Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II, both native New Yorkers, grew up in a time when the Broadway musical was one of the few high-focus entertainment venues available. This is long before television, before radio. And so they grew up with the musical theater in their blood.
Rodgers and Hammerstein were not only the most influential team in musical theater history, they are among the most successful partnerships in American popular culture. And not only did they build on their successes in terms of how much money they made, how many performances they ran, but every show they took on got more complicated, more challenging to them, more adventuresome, and they usually pulled it off 8 times out of 10.
Rodgers and Hammerstein were clearly Broadway babies, and they had hit it so big with Oklahoma in 1943, and they just kept writing shows. By the mid-50s, some of the shows that they were writing for Broadway may not have been as exciting to the Broadway community as their original, Oklahoma and Carousel and South Pacific, but the movie versions of their shows all happened within a number of years. So in the mid-50s, they sort of had tiptoed to Hollywood, and they had made, actually they were the producers of the movie of Oklahoma and the movie of South Pacific, which was made the same year as Flower Drum Song. And then soon afterwards, the movie of Flower Drum Song came out in 1961. It did phenomenally well. It was a great, big, old-fashioned, Hollywood movie musical.
They seemed to focus on the human side of the story. People can still relate. Even people who would find their stories and the settings of their stories so many worlds away from where they are, I think you can always go right to the people. San Francisco Chinatown in 1958, you may not have any idea what it was, but when the curtain comes up on Flower Drum Song, you instantly recognize those people. You recognize that father and that son and the people who are involved in the story. This is what Rodgers and Hammerstein did that made them so successful. Just listening to the songs, you got involved with the people, and you went past all of it. Just immediately right to the ground zero of the emotion. They had the ability to find it and mine it again and again.
They were the first musical theater team to infiltrate American culture from top to bottom. Rodgers and Hammerstein shows were like, I guess, the Cadillacs of post-war America. They were built to last, and last they did. There would come a point, let's pick 1958, when Flower Drum Song opens in New York, where you might have families all over America with 3 or 4 Rodgers and Hammerstein cast albums, going to see a movie in the local cinema, having a touring company come through their town. So they absolutely penetrated the consciousness of every American. You couldn't be an American in 1958 and not know one of their songs, and better than that, not know one of their shows and what it meant.
Rodgers and Hammerstein worked together almost exclusively for 17 years, and in those 17 years they managed to crank out 11 musical scores, and anybody who's ever worked on creating a musical must understand how astonishing it is to have created 11. Of those 11, 5 are absolute classics of the American musical theater: Oklahoma, Carousel, South Pacific, The King and I, and The Sound of Music. Cinderella, classic for television, and then there are classics like State Fair and Flower Drum Song, and I'm happy to say that the shows are still being done all around the world.
And now, not only do people have the cast album, they have the DVDs of all their movies. And The Sound of Music is the singular most popular movie in musical theater history. So when you think about how they work and how many different levels on which they worked, let alone how just great they are as writers and how enduring they are, there's never been a team like Rodgers and Hammerstein in America, ever.